Hello, J. Drew Brumbaugh here. For those that have been following along, you know I'm working really hard to try to get finished book 3 in my fantasy trilogy. And so far it's been kind of a struggle. I have a draft done, and but every chapter keeps coming back from the editor with more things that need fixed, details, not so much, not too many typos but just it's the old story. The author knows the story already, but he has to tell it all to the reader. So anyway, as I mentioned in previous posts, I said I would do a reading from book 3. The title of book 3 is still up in the air. It might be The Tower at Tirumfall. It might be The Magic Tower, something like that. But anyway, here we go. Prelude. 17 years have passed since Gant and Dalphnia kidnapped Gwen, the child of prophecy, from the demon ruling in the city of Ferd and brought her home to live with him. She's grown into a headstrong young woman with a propensity for magic, and now she wants to go out into the world and take her brother with her. Meanwhile, west of the Monolith Mountains, the rival demon overlords, Gargash and Balgash, continue to battle for possession of Isabella, whom they believe is the child of prophecy, but is actually a slave child that Pris switched with Gwen at birth. That was in book 2. Isabella lives in Pagar after Gargash stole her from Balgash, who rules in Ferd. Balgash was furious and has mounted multiple armed attacks against Pagar, trying to regain custody of Isabella. So far, those efforts have failed. The struggle between demons is about to come to an end, and when the truth comes out, the forces of evil that reside in the West will unite in their efforts to regain their prized child and kill everyone east of the mountains, which is basically everyone we know, or the good guys anyway. Chapter 1. Gwen's raven hair glistened in the sunlight that filtered between the leaves of the magnificent treehouse she lived in. It was no ordinary treehouse. No, it was the massive, enchanted oak they all called Sprout. The tree had such a powerful intrinsic bond with Gwen's mother, the woodland nymph Dalphnia, that it configured its limbs, branches, and leaves into a comfortable home for the whole family. As Gwen had grown up living in the tree, she also bonded with Sprout, and the tree somehow knew when to tighten the weave of the branches that formed the walls to keep her warmer, or open windows to the cool air to cool her and let her see out. The tree's behavior would have been supernatural, except that in a nymph's family it all seemed normal. Standing near his sister, Seth recognized the mischievous gleam growing in his sister's dark eyes, knew she was up to something, but waited for her to explain. "We're going to find the tower at Tirumfall," she stated matter-of-factly, as if they could just walk there that very day. Seth hesitated, accustomed to his sister's tricks and pranks that often had him as the butt of the joke. There were plenty of legends about Tirumfall Tower. Most hinted that the ultimate secrets of wizardry were locked up inside. Other than the fact that the tower existed, little else was known. Seth had heard Gwen ask their Uncle Pris about the tower many times during her lessons in magic with him, but even he thought it was more rumor than fact and that going there was a waste of time. Better, he suggested, she continue her studies, as she certainly had a knack for spellcasting, and the best way to improve was to practice. "Gwen, you're quitting, right?" he said when she failed to elaborate. "No, I'm not." The gleam in her eyes spread to a wicked grin. "You know I've dreamed of this my whole life." "Why now? Uncle Pris says you'll be one of the best wizards in the world." "Not one of the best. I want to be the best wizard ever," she said through pursed lips. "You will be. Just keep training with Uncle Pris." Gwen shook her head and turned away from the opening in the branches that she'd been looking out. "You don't understand. Tirumfall had wizards that would put every mage in the world to shame. They knew things that were lost, things Uncle Pris can't teach me, that no one can teach me." "So you're determined to go?" Seth asked, but already knew Gwen didn't say something like this unless her mind was made up, And in that case, he'd learned a long time ago there was nothing he could say to change her mind. Yes, and I need to go now, because last night I cast a spell looking for the key to Tirumfall. And you found it? Seth asked incredulously. No, the spell didn't work that well, but the spell led me to someone who's seen it. Who? Where? Someone named Mott, a traveling storyteller who is in Falls Hill right now. I believe he has actually seen the key. Seen it or has it? He doesn't have it, but he knows who does. And we're going to find out who that someone is, and then we'll go get the key from them before someone else opens the tower. Seth shrugged. It was a wild goose chase, but he didn't see how he was going to put a stop to it. How do you propose to get the key from whoever has it? Well, we'll worry about that when we find them. Seth didn't like it at all. He felt the tightly interwoven branches that made up the floor sway, as if Sprout felt his discomfort. The floor steadied. Maybe she wasn't serious. And anyway, how did she know there was a key? Could a tower built by the greatest wizards in the history of magic be locked by a simple key? How do you know there is a key? Why would you think there isn't? Typical. She answers with another question, he thought. But Seth was beginning to realize she was serious. Now the alarms were ringing in his head. Every time he went along with one of his sister's schemes, he was the one that got in trouble. He knew legends claimed that Tirumfall Tower was the ultimate seat of all magic. If that was true, the tower was just the place where Gwen could fulfill her biggest dream, that one day she would be the greatest wizard ever. I don't think you've thought this through. How will we get there? What about provisions, food, money, all the stuff travelers need? You worry too much. I'm going to unlock Tirumfall Tower. Are you going with me or not? Despite a million reasons he should say no, he knew he was going. Somehow he couldn't resist his sister. He nodded assent, breathed out a long, slow breath, and allowed his sister to hug him fiercely. You won't regret this, she said, kissing him on the cheek. Somehow he wasn't so sure. So that's the first part of chapter 1. And I hope it piques your interest and that maybe you'll continue to follow along as I work on this and get closer and closer to actually getting a publication date. Thanks to everybody that follows and pays attention and sticks with me. Later.